Hello, everyone. It's Shane Kanto, your Wasteland reviewer, and welcome to the Wasteland, my weekly show where I take a deep dive into a particular film. And yes, it's more John Ford. We've been doing this so long that he's repeating himself. And this time we're going to be talking about The Sun Shines Bright, which is a remake of his own film, Judge Priest. And of course, I had to have the person who came on last time to talk about that. Alice, thank you so much for coming on.
G'day, thank you for having me. I'm pleased to be here with you. I'm interested to talk about the film.
Yet again, problematic movie that aged poorly that kind of thinks that it's not being problematic. We'll get to that
And
point.
also was John Ford's on record most favorite film.
Yes, I do that. I do have that in my notes. But for those who haven't tuned into this show before, we have three segments. We do have coming attractions for August 30th. So it is Labor Day, and what the hell's coming out in theaters? Then we'll get to our feature film and have some recommendations for you. But yes, this is like the random weekend of just things dropping. I'm almost surprised that The Crow didn't come out this particular weekend. As we're recording a little earlier than usual. Pro hasn't come out yet, but I'm sure nobody will go see it. But this weekend, we do have a new sci-fi thriller, Slingshot, a faith-based, literally baseball movie, you gotta believe. And but the other main wide release for this weekend is Alice's most anticipated. And what would that be, Alice?
Look, most anticipated is a strong word.
Anticipated.
Yeah, most anticipated out of the absolute dregs that are coming out that week. But the movie it's just called Afraid, right? But
It's called
the AI,
Afraid with AI
yeah,
capitalized in it.
it's like
Yes.
it's like afraid.
Yep.
But Afraid starring John Cho and produced by Blumhouse.
Yep.
That's pretty much, I think, all people need to know. All the AI is accentuated. It stars
Yes.
John Cho. It's produced by Blumhouse. And and specifically, apparently, the people who made Megan and there was another one. What was the other one? Megan
Trying
and
to remember.
oh, good. I will look it up.
I'm
No, no,
sure it was
I
Night
literally
Swim,
talked
and
about it.
they don't want to acknowledge that.
No, it
So
wasn't Night Swim. It was the other like decent-ish one. And Black Phone. Black
oh,
Phone.
that would be something
Yeah.
that I would throw out there. If
Yeah.
only they could say from the director of the Black Phone, that might get me a little bit more excited about this movie. Which that's the
Yeah,
thing.
look, it's from the guy who wrote About a Boy and Rogue One Star Wars story, and I like those movies. So, but he also
Um,
did Golden Compass.
the
So,
two things that stood out to me most about this trailer was like when the AI is just like, you can think of me like another mother. And then it's just like, ooh, and it's just like undercutting mom role in this
hmm
household. And
Yep.
then another piece was where like the teenage girls like photos and stuff get leaked on the internet because this little
Mm.
shit that she had sex with released it. And then it's like, I'll take care of it. Just brutally murdered boy
I
driver's car.
mean, I wouldn't mind if like look, if AI is gonna become sentient and start killing people, it might as well start killing people that do revenge porn, and
Yep.
actually be
There.
useful. Because if it's AI, it could potentially hack in and like erase everything, like if it's like Megan, maybe that's how it's like Megan, where it's like it's helping you this whole time, but it's helping you by killing people. What if that's
I
literally the movie? What if it's just Megan, except it's a box instead of a doll?
can you imagine if this is like a secret Megan sequel that comes out before the official Megan
What if this
sequel?
becomes like an Alien versus Predator thing and it's Megan versus Aya?
See, now we're cooking now. This is considerably more interesting than what this movie is by itself. Oh, they're creating the artificial intelligence cinematic universe from
Oh my
Blumhouse.
God.
Because aren't they
And then the
releasing
artificial intelligence will take over the cinematic universe and it'll just
a
become so meta it'll explode.
Oh my God, because they have a new spin-off for Megan. I think it was like Hostage with an eight somewhere in there, where it's
Oh,
like
I thought Megan
uh,
was just getting a sequel.
it's getting a kind of disconnected spin-off where it's like somebody gets a robot to be partners with, not to have like a friend as a kid, because you lose your partner, and then you get this surrogate robot because that can't go badly very quickly.
Oh no, 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 no.
Funhouse is like,
That's
well, people aren't so high on Black Mirror anymore, so let's do our own.
yeah, we'll just do them and then put them out
Except
as feature films.
and make them sassy.
But
Because
they are also making a sequel called Megan 2.0.
yes, so it is
So
getting an
if
official
they don't
sequel
just call if they don't call the third one just Megan again, I'm gonna
with
be
the three,
the
with the
three.
three. Yep.
Like it's
Mhm.
already got a three. You have to at least make three. And you just have to call it Megan again. So that people then are like, oh yeah, the movie's Megan, Megan 2.0, and Mithrigan.
Three. There we go. See, Blumhouse hire us. We
Yep.
know what we're talking about.
What are you doing?
So my most anticipated film out of all of some of the smaller films coming out this weekend is Out Come the Wolves, because this looks like a nice, lean kind of thriller. I do
Hmm.
love some wolf-centric thriller done right. Like The Gray, that wasn't just taken
Mm.
with wolves. That actually had a lot of depth to it, which makes me upset that people were like, this isn't Liam Neeson punching wolves. So at or Tokyo Cowboy, which is interesting because I saw that movie last year.
Mm.
I got an early screening when it was running the festivals,
Mm.
and it's a really good movie. So hopefully people go check it out. It is coming out on in theaters and VOD at the same time. So maybe
Yeah.
people at least, who don't live in LA or New York will actually be able to watch it.
Yeah, that would be nice. You know, that if it's only coming out in America now, that means we will get it in 2 years.
There we go. Perfect timing. So
Mm-hmm.
there you
Mm-hmm.
go. Now, let's shift gears into our feature film of the week from 1953, and that is The Sun Shines Bright. And this is based on short stories by Irvin S. Cobb, featured in the Saturday Evening Post in the 1910s. So, yes, this is based off of newspaper stories. Adapting The Sun Shines Bright, The Mob from Mosaic, and The Lord Provides. So he kind of took three of these short stories and slammed them together. Previously directed Judge Priest, as mentioned, which came out in
Mm-hmm.
1934. So this is literally almost 20 years later.
Mm-hmm.
See how much updating happened in between. So this is remade so he could include one of the main reasons he wanted to remake this so he can include an attempted lynching scene where Judge Priest stops the mob that
Can
was
you
cut.
imagine? Can you imagine being like, no, I want the lynching scene?
Well, I guess to the point it's like Judge Priest does stop it, and that apparently that's a big part of his character and stuff. And John Ford
Hmm.
was mad that Fox cut it out 20 years ago, so he told Republic Pictures step off and did it anyway. Yes, Step and Fetch It is back again, and I love how they described him as his assistant in some
Yeah.
of the descriptions, and I'm just like, you mean his servant that just,
Yeah.
follows him around and does whatever he says?
Yep.
So yes, as Alice said earlier, this was John Ford's favorite film of his, which, spoiler alert, it's not mine, and it's not close. This was entered in the 1953 Cannes Film Festival.
Was it really? That wasn't in the trivia I read. Did it? do anything at the can,
There were
I
no notes about that on Wikipedia, so I'm assuming not well. And then
guess.
there is a Republic Pictures cut of this film that actually does cut 10 minutes out.
Yeah.
So there's an hour and 40-minute version of this movie and an hour and 30-minute version of this movie.
I saw the hour and 40-minute version
Me
purely
too.
because on YouTube it was the clearer picture one.
Yes, for sure. Which, yes, this can be found on YouTube.
For
So
free.
for free, which is the most
Yeah.
important piece in this equation. But Alice, what were your general thoughts?
Oh, goodness. It's just really hard to feel for a character that spends or characters that spend so much of the movie being proud of their Confederate past. Like, it is the thing I just could not get past. And also the fact that every African American character is the dumbest person you have ever met in your entire life. I'm like, why was this allowed to happen? Just and like you said, it's based on three short stories. So I guess it's like there's the African American like lynching like
Yes.
rape storyline. I
Mhm.
guess the one of the prostitute and the daughter, and then what, just like a re-election one? Like
Yeah,
what's the third one?
I guess that makes sense if you
I'm
like
just
break
trying
it
to
out
think
into
what's
the
the third storyline in this? There's not really. It's like there's the
well, it all it's
prostitute
like
thing, and
it
then there's the there's the, rape, not rape.
yeah.
Which
If
can
you
I just say
really
the whole time I was like, To Kill a Mockingbird is a better version of this movie.
like not even like close,
Yeah.
considerably better version of this story for sure. And it's just, and the whole entire thing builds up to him getting reelected and then getting a
Yeah.
whole entire parade in his honor with all the Confederate flags possible.
Yep.
And I'd like to
Yep.
point out one little note my wife brought up while we were watching this of the fact that, like, how all the black people at the very end were allowed to come out at the end of the parade and then specifically showed up in his house and sang for him. Because,
Yep.
like, I'm just like, and then my wife's like, which that was a great shot of it framed in him walking through the front door, emotional and
Mm.
everything, very
Yeah.
The Searchers-esque. And my wife's like,
Yeah.
"Is he dead? Is he dying?" That's what this is trying to say. I'm
No,
like,
he's
"No,
just happy.
it's going to be really awful because they just went
Yeah.
through all of this for him to get reelected, for him to just
Yeah.
drop dead at the end of this movie." And which
Yeah.
you are absolutely right because the whole first act of this movie spends so much time building up
Hmm.
that these are proud Confederates.
So
They
much
have
time.
and like
Why is there so much time?
they have this whole section. They have a whole organization of Confederate
Yeah, at a
veterans,
meeting of Confederates. I'm like,
and
what
then they
is
have a
happening?
meeting of Union veterans in the
Yeah.
same town. Which also, like, I'm just gonna say it. I don't care what anybody thinks or gonna comment here. Isn't a meeting of Confederate soldiers treason? Because this was a treasonous nation. So I'm
Yeah.
just sitting here like, this is all kinds of sketch. Like, in
Yeah.
how I would like to know in how many first world countries we have whole populations of people that worship a treasonous nation that lasted less time than It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia. Like the time of It's Always Sunny in
Yeah.
Philadelphia and how
Yeah.
many other TV shows and spend so much time meeting and like waving the flag of a nation that was treasonous. Like,
Well, but all of that aside, like the whole point, like I can say this especially because I'm Australian and this is what we're taught, but like from an external perspective, the big thing was pro-slavery, anti-slavery. And I don't understand how now in two films, Judge Priest is put forth as this like judge of the people, and he's the one helping African Americans and being the kind one and yada yada yada. And then I'm like, but if you were in the Confederacy, you would wanted slaves. Like, what? And then there's that whole bit of like, oh, he's the young guy who ends
Yeah.
up becoming accused of rape. And that whole he goes to court because his uncle or dad wants him to get a job. And I was like, okay, we're in court for that. And the job is like, well, head on over to the plantation and do some cotton picking or whatever. And I'm like, ooh.
Which do you mean court that ended in
In
the
the
rendition of Dixie?
that even he was like, I guess, and every single person that walked in was just so moved they just joined in, and I'm like, what is happening right now? Like, I am so confused.
I I guess I have a personal bias, but
Mhm.
I cannot handle any more Confederate sympathy films from John Ford at this point,
Yeah,
which makes
I
no
think that's
sense
fair.
to me because, like, so I've been born, raised, lived my whole entire life in New
Mm-hmm.
Jersey, which,
Mm-hmm.
yes, was part of the Union, despite the fact that geographically I was born south of the Mason-Dixon line, if you just
Yeah.
draw it out.
Yeah.
And if you ask all the New Jerseyans below that point who wave Confederate flags and drive in lifted trucks and stuff like that, they think they were Confederacy too. And it's like, it's Southern pride. We wanted
Yeah.
states' rights. And it's just like,
You wanted slaves.
you wanted states' rights to keep your slaves.
Yeah.
It's just, this might have some good messages somewhere in here, which,
Mm-hmm.
like, I feel like John Ford's trying to walk things back a little bit because, we have respect between these two organizations and, like, the fact that, like, uh, Priest'll walk their flag back into this union meeting. And then he has this whole monologue where he's trying to talk about how this ass backwards way of respecting our heritage and stuff like that is an
Yeah,
important
that
part
was
of blah blah
weird.
blah
I'm
blah.
like, what are you talking
Like,
about?
why are
Like,
you doubling down on this?
yeah.
Why? Which
You're
also,
the one because even the bit where he's doing the big speech that John Ford, the lynching scene or the wanting to lynch scene that
yeah,
John Ford really wanted, and that I read some. What did I read? I was reading, I think, one of the trivia, and it was like his extremely well executed and reasoned argument as to why they shouldn't lynch him or whatever. And I was like, did we? Did I watch the wrong film or something? Because his extremely well reasoned and like and spoken argument was literally like, oh well, bloodhounds, they're silly dogs, bloodhounds. And I'm like,
yeah. And also
okay.
he's gonna shoot them.
Yeah, and he's
Like,
like, I'll you take one step, I'll shoot you. I'll only shoot one of you, but you'll be dead. Go on, I'll shoot you. And I'm just like,
which it gave me the vibe because, like, he's in this, like, white big daddy
yeah,
type, like, suit and everything, and him just whipping a gun out. I'm just like, I got the same energy as, like, ambulance, but not for me.
yeah.
He, like, pulls some gun out
But
with
I
that
just
kind
love
of
how that
energy.
stopped them because I was like, they were all ready to like trample and everything's like, oh, but if one of us is going to potentially die, like, I'm like, what? Why
Well,
did everyone just go, well, nothing to do here?
it's like, I'm trying to remember what the actual movie is. It's like, you're not gonna kill all of us with that one bullet. Well, I could kill you. And then it's like, wait a minute.
Yeah,
And then the leader's like, they want to
yeah,
die. Like,
yeah,
that
literally.
stuff happens in comedies.
Yeah,
Like,
it was
and
just so weird. And even at the
it's
end when they're all like in the parade and it's just a sign saying, he saved us from ourselves. I was just like, come
this
on,
movie
people.
has a lot of good intentions places that just get so murky and messed
Like
up because every lens that you put these messages through are so like concerning and backwards and
Like,
like
can
that.
we talk about the prostitute storyline? Because this is what I understand it to be. She was a prostitute. She had like affairs with this
Mm,
general, had this child. Child was adopted to the town doctor or whatever. And like everyone knew, but
mhm,
didn't want her to know. And they're like, well, we have to hide this painting so she can never know. And then she finds out because he didn't cover the painting. I also love that moment because she's like, tell me the truth. And he's like, oh, I can't. And then she just looks over and sees the painting. And then she's like, thank you, you judge. Thank you for telling me the truth. I mean, he didn't do anything. And he just, what are you doing? He was actively trying to hide the truth from you. And then nothing really happens. The prostitute dies. And then they go on this big what is meant to be emotional moment where like
mhm.
oh he parades for a prostitute and I assume the other two women are also prostitutes, the most covered prostitutes I've ever seen in my entire life, but they're just parading and then slowly all the good people in the town also do, and it shows the goodness of the town and whatever and like his honor and rah rah rah, and I'm just like this was a weird. He's not even really involved. He just has the painting at his house. Like,
Yeah, it's and what's so interesting is this is such a loose movie with it's very episodic for sure
mm,
because like it does feel like you took three short stories and slammed them together
yeah,
because you didn't have enough material, I guess, to work out a feature-length film, just one of them.
yeah, yep,
And it like this movie just feels like it's trying to justify him getting reelected. It's just like
yeah,
these two stories are why this is a good man and why he should get reelected because the payoff of the movie is he gets reelected
yeah.
by specifically the whole group of guy.
Of
Well,
lynch mob.
yeah, they voted for him, all
Yeah,
every single
the
one of them apparently.
tornado boys.
And it's
Yeah.
like, and I just want to let you know we're tied 1700, 1700. It's like, well, now I'm going to go in and vote for myself. And then
And
he
break
breaks the
that
tie,
part. But also, we
which
never get to know his opponent. I'm like, why is he bad? He's just your opponent. I don't get why he's like, why are you good?
he's a
Like,
he's a Republican
okay,
because
that's it.
back then the parties were switched. So, and at some point they magically like, well, everything that I believe as a Democrat, I am now a Republican because that's how
Yeah.
political parties work.
Yep.
Because that was, I think, like the '60s was where
Yeah.
that blurring of things started happening.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because like this is still the '50s, and Democrats were the ones who, seceded and were racist and fought against the civil
It's
rights.
really funny, isn't it? Because when you think back and you're like, oh, Lincoln was a Republican, and like, because initially it was literally just like Republicans just wanted a republic, like that, and then it just became like so mired and like
And
it's
then it
so
turned
weird
into the
now.
shit that we have today,
Yeah.
which the American political
Oh,
system.
lordy,
But
lordy. I can't wait for movies to be made about this.
so some of the things that stood out here. So Stephen Fetchit plays the same character that he played in the first film,
Oh, why
which
is he
feels
in the movie? At
so
least in
much.
the last, yeah, at least in the last one, he actually did stuff, I guess. Like, very, very shallowly, but he's just like, oh, he slept in. And I'm like,
Yeah,
okay.
this feels so much worse 20 years later.
Yeah.
Because, like, at least so in the 1930s, that movie was closer to the Civil War than today.
Uh-huh. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
It's much closer now
Yeah.
to today. And it's just like, this hasn't grown in 20 years. And it just, I never bought in why all the black people in this town loved him so much. And it's
That's
just
literally my. Is it because they're all apparently the dumbest people in the world? Like, I'm not. Let me say, make it exceptionally clear. I don't think that's a
yes.
fair stereotype to the entire ethnicity of
No.
African American
It's
people.
just
But that's what this movie wants you to think.
it's like they're all like, oh yes, and all love Judge Priest, and will
Yeah.
sing songs for him and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
It's not a great representation of black people at all. And then
It's
it's just
really
like,
offensive. Like if I was black, I feel like I would watch this movie and it's like pro I don't know if this was Ford thinking he was super progressive because he
it's
had black characters in his movies, just like the Mexican priest one we did, where it was like it's super
yes,
progressive because there's Mexican people in the movie, and
yes.
it's like
I didn't
it's
use
also about
white
how you
people.
portray. Yeah.
Yes. It's and that's the tricky thing about this film because I think for 1954 this movie thinks that it's being progressive. I can't
Yeah.
speak to, I was not alive in 1954, but for
What?
2024, this,
Yeah.
and people thought that I just looked grayer for my age. No, I look a lot better for my age.
No.
Um, it's just something that it's one of those films that aged horribly. And
And
sure, and
it's also just very boring. Like all of the issues of it aside, it was really difficult for me to keep my attention on the film.
well,
Like it was only an hour and 40 minutes and it felt like 2.5 hours. I was like, yes, please end.
and the tricky thing is, it's like he's made films that are some of the most engaging, thrilling films of that era. And then, what's his taste? Like, this is your favorite movie that you made of
Yeah,
yours? And it's like,
I don't
I would have been
understand.
like, I've watched The Quiet Man a couple weeks ago, which was legitimately 2 hours and 8 minutes. And like, there's some things that didn't age properly about it, but like, this is a gorgeous, engaging film. And then this just,
Mm.
he is so, John Ford, from my experience of going
Hmm.
through, we're at like 60
Yeah.
weeks at this point, is that he is so hit or miss with things. He has some of the greatest films ever created. Grapes of Wrath, Stagecoach, The Searchers. He made really great films. He helped define the Western genre. But there's stuff like this that's just like, what were you doing? And like you have Charles uh Winninger, who plays Judge Priest, who I think does a
Mm-hmm.
really good job in this role. And which is
Sure,
very
yeah.
interesting. I just watched a movie last night that starred him. And I'm like, wait a
Oh.
minute, is that Judge Priest? From 1930, it's called Soup to Nuts. And it was a pre the Three Stooges movie.
Oh.
And it was written by Rube Goldberg, as in
Oh.
the inventor of Rube Goldberg
Yeah.
machines.
Yeah, yeah,
And
no, no, yeah, no, I
and it's like apparently he wrote movies. He was a cartoonist and an author too. And like
that makes
this
sense. If
actor's
you
like a
build those kind
quality.
of things, you'd be a creative.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And like John Russell had a smaller role in this. He was
Mm.
like the young guy and who became
Mm.
iconic villains in Outlaw Josie Wales, Pale Rider. And
Mm.
there's some talented performers that like Russell Simpson's in this, who pops up in a lot of things, and Francis Ford, yet again, still popping up and stuff. John Ford's
Yeah.
brother. And there's some talent here. There's some good intentions here, and it all gets murked up in the strange lens of Confederate sympathy and just
Mm-hmm.
not reading the room right when it comes to like representing black people. And yeah, at the end of the day, it's more of a string of scenes than it is like a movie,
Yep.
and
Like,
nothing
what was
really
that
comes
whipping
together.
scene? That whipping duel scene where I was like, what? Okay, so he's in a whipping duel now, and
It's
uh and that's done.
it's basically like it's an anthology of the times of Judge Priest. And that's
Yeah,
basically what this movie is.
a
And
weird, wacky week in his life.
yes, what a week. What a week for sure. But Alice, do you have any other thoughts on The Sun Shines Bright?
I wouldn't watch it if you haven't seen it. I know, okay, I know John Ford apparently loved it,
Mhm.
but he was also old when he said that. So let's assume some senility gave into that and just ignore it.
There you go.
Okay.
So we have our recommendations left. And Alice, what would you like to recommend?
I would like to recommend something that you recommended initially to me, which
There
is
you go.
on the podcast that we did with Mike on SPDM,
Yep.
where we talk about TV. You brought up the show Dinosaur,
Mhm.
which is basically about a paleontologist who's autistic and lives in Scotland. And one day she is with her sister, who's her best friend and her roommate, and they get along great. And then her sister is like, I'm getting married. And mild chaos ensues. And it was so great. It's classic British comedy. I'd say if you're a fan of like In-Betweeners and Dairy Girls, this is very much like in the same, much more Dairy Girls, like very much in the same line of that kind of, kind of really wholesome, but still British humor.
Mhm.
Obviously, there's the element of autism, but it never feels like she is autistic, but that's like not the point of the show. The point of the
Yeah.
show is that she's just like, having to deal with irritating people around her. She's got a crush on the coffee van man,
Yeah.
and her sister makes, because it's also like everyone else in the show has their own issues, including her sister, who is very changeable and decides to get married to a man after 6 weeks. The man she's engaged to, who has a concave ass and is extremely shallow, but is actually so like he's such a sweetheart.
Mhm.
And then even the coffee van man, who is just like a guy who has a crush on her, and they're just trying to kind of get through life. And it's just this season's about the lead up to her sister's wedding
Yes.
and how she just has to stop being mildly irritated by everyone. And that's what I love. When I say it's like mild chaos, it's like it's never, sometimes you watch comedies, particularly American comedies, and it's like so insane and intense and all over the joint where it goes. And it's just like people might have an argument, the craziest thing that happens in the show is on a hen's party, but it's
Yes.
nothing like it's not, it's very realistic.
This
It's like
isn't
I
like a
could see that
hangover.
happening. Yeah,
Like,
this is very like, yeah, this might happen if you go on a hen's party and you've only been engaged after 6 weeks. And
mhm.
like it's just, and it's, I never felt overly stressed. I never was like, oh, I'm uncomfortable watching this, or this is just cringe humor. And it's just I really enjoyed it. I really, really want a season two. I
Yes.
love the actors. I love the main actor. She is fantastic in this role. She's
Mhm.
so great. She's so great at her like straight man humor.
Mhm.
And like, but also I do love the fact that like she is autistic, and it also shows a type of autism that isn't often shows, which is female autism. Because often when you see autism, it's male autism, and female
Mhm.
autism is quite different, which is why a lot of women go undiagnosed until long into their adult life, because
Mhm.
masking is a part of it. And it does explore that a little bit, but it also explores, like I said, all the other characters and how it affects her. And she's not a dysfunctional human being. In fact, she's an extremely functional human
Yes.
being. And that is also what I love. It's like, the whole show isn't just like, oh, she's autistic and everyone has to deal with it. It's just like, oh, she's autistic and she's the main character. And she's also a paleontologist, and her boss is a weirdo.
Yes.
So,
And she's not
yeah.
the one with the most problems. It's definitely her
Literally. And I think
sister.
that's kind of the point. And I think that's kind of the point. And I really love it. Yeah, I strongly recommend Dinosaur. Thank you, Shane, for this.
Yes.
It was
I
honestly, it's one of the best shows I've seen this year.
I loved it. It's 6 episodes. It's
Yep.
lean. It's
Yep.
hilarious. And yes, it is relatable in its awkwardness and not
Yeah.
like people, they don't find tigers or get punched out by Mike Tyson on
Yeah,
this.
and they
Like,
don't end up like doing ridiculous things where like they end up on the other side of the world. Like it's just like, for example, the dad of the fiance is coming and they all have to impress
yes.
him, but they all pretend to be like not who they are, and it's
Yes.
just like, and I just love the whole time when they're just he has these very weird pair of glasses and all she wants to do is comment on the pair of glasses, but she
Yes.
can't. It's just
And
it's
that's
so
such a
great.
great payoff building to that point. It's the little things, and that's what this show does
Hmm.
so well. Here, technically it's on Hulu, which is now being absorbed
Mm.
by Disney Plus. So like you could just
Hmm.
watch it on Disney Plus at this
There you
point.
go. If you're in
So
Australia, you can watch it for free on SBS On Demand, which is what I did.
there you go. So one new film that I want to recommend is Alien
Hmm.
Romulus, which I want to see.
I am being forced to see that on Saturday, so I'm very relieved.
Fede Alvarez is an amazing director and really
Mm,
know like the look of this movie from start to finish is absolutely incredible. It's the atmosphere and everything. I I was afraid that this would just feel like it's just Alien all over again. Because like the trailers didn't really give me a whole lot of hope that it would be anything but just
hmm.
Alien over
Oh, it just
again.
looked like another Alien movie. Like it looked like Alien Covenant, you know. I was just like,
There's
oh, and
some
I think there's a lot of fatigue in my brain. This is also ironically related to Predator, where I'm like, I'm just over the concept of Alien and the concept of Predator because there's so many of them.
which this film does some things that I did not expect narratively and how it connects to multiple of these films in some films that I never thought they would reference. For again, um, all I'm gonna say is there's something in the third act that is nightmare fuel, and I'm just like
Great.
I am done. It's like
Okay. Well, I've only seen the first two, and obviously, and I've seen Alien, Aliens, Prometheus, Alien Covenant. That's it. I ref
well,
didn't want to watch any of the other ones.
well, to be fair, out of the 6 proper Alien movies, you've seen 2/3 of them.
Yeah.
I'm not acknowledging AVP. Those are just like Elseworld random,
Well,
like
I
somebody
know
on
that
a thing.
I just know from the third one, it's like it's not even a drop off. It's like just it just cuts. Like it just goes all the way plummets, you know? And so
Yes.
I'm like, why would I put myself through that? I've seen the first two. I watched Prometheus and Alien Covenant because that, you know, Prometheus I didn't even I when it came out, I wasn't even aware of what Alien was, you know,
Mhm.
and then now we're here.
Which there's a very interesting connection to Prometheus that I did not expect.
Do they
In
run away in
this.
a stupid way from the disc and not run literally in any direction? They should run.
This film pulls together a lot of the mythos of this franchise, which I did not expect. And
Mm,
at least the artificial being character in this, Andy,
mm-hmm.
is so great. It's so cool. I'm a little disappointed by the characters
Mm-hmm.
because the thing that makes Alien and Alien so great are the
Other
characters,
characters. Yep.
and the casts are incredible. I will say Kaylee Spaney and Isabella Merced, aka Dora the Explorer,
Hmm.
they both do a really good job. Like, there's the two most interesting characters in the movie happen to be artificial beings. I'm just going to put it that way. And there's an unexpected return of an actor from the Alien franchise that really took me by surprise. And it's definitely pissing off a lot of people because I'm going to leave it at that. But overall, by the end, I'm like, I really think it's the best Alien movie we've got since Aliens. And like, I would not
Ooh, I
quite
mean,
put
look,
it.
that's not that high praise.
Well, to be honest, I think Prometheus has like plot holes, issues, kind of
Yeah.
stuff like that. But it was an ambitious and interesting film with a really
Yeah,
great
that's
cast.
true.
And Alien Covenant, I feel like its biggest thing is like it feels like another Alien movie. Like it doesn't do a whole lot
I don't
new
even like
except
remember any of it. Like I know I saw it. I just didn't take like
you
any of it
don't
in, you know?
remember. I'll do the fingering for you.
Yo, gosh. I mean, now that you've made me unlock that core memory, yeah, of course oh my God, I'll do the fingering. Like now I'm remembering it, but I just remember it,
Yeah,
yeah, just kind of feeling like Prometheus and Alien all over again.
yeah. So I would recommend Alien Romulus. It makes me interested to see more of what they do to expand this world because humans are messed up. And just the existence of xenomorphs and the creators can open up a jar of all kinds of stuff. And they open up a few jars here. And also, apparently, this movie has an $80 million budget. And
Really? That's
it
quite
looks
demure. Very
it looks
mindful.
incredible. Like the
Well,
special effects scenes look
yeah.
incredible. Like you
Well,
can
I
tell
mean,
from the
between
trailer,
that and like, Godzilla minus one, and then there was something else that came out
the
recently and it only had like
creator.
a 50. Yeah, well, not just the creator. I think it was this year. I can't remember exactly. Oh, I think like Civil War didn't have like really any budget
It was a
either.
$50 million budget. Yeah.
Yeah, and like these movies look insane. I mean, if this one $80 million and it's set in space, no movie should ever have more than like
So
$150 million
the
dollars.
space station is the Romulus and the Remus. It is
Yeah.
like an attached space station, and it's slowly falling out of orbit and about to hit an asteroid, like a asteroid belt.
Yeah.
And you see it in the trailer.
Mm,
I'm not spoiling, I don't think anything for you.
mm.
But when that ship finally hits, and there's that one shot in the trailer where like this spaceship's like exploding. I'm like,
Yeah.
it's only cost $80 million. It's incredible. So I would recommend two other things. So
Good.
one, off of my watch list, I watched A Special Day. This is
Mm-hmm.
an Italian film from Attore, I think was the director, starring Sophia Loren and Marcello Mastroianni. And
Mm-hmm.
basically, this takes place on the day Hitler visited Italy.
Oh,
And
fun.
that's the backdrop of fascism. And it's like a I'm done with this housewife, played by Sophia Loren, connecting with a suicidal author
Mm,
from across the way in her building. And it's a very small scale, very impactful drama. And it just was something that Ettore Scola was the director. It's
mm,
a moving film. It has two great performances. This was nominated for Best Foreign Language Film back in '77, and Mastriani got nominated for Best Actor at the
mm.
Oscars. So like this is well before like recently where a lot of foreign
Yeah.
films were getting more attention. So it just oh and wait a minute. I just looked up on IMDb. I just now realizing that her husband was played by John Vernon. And I'm like, I was watching the movie. I'm like, he looks like John Vernon, but this is an Italian movie. It can't possibly be John Vernon. But it was. The opening sequence is hilarious, to be honest, of her trying to get her whole family up and running in the morning. And she is so done. She is so sassy with them. Sophia Loren was great. Mastriani was fantastic. It's a moving, impactful drama.
Mm,
That's very small scale. And I thought this would be nice on theme. One of my movies that I rewatched recently was The General. So a movie with way too much Confederate sympathy, because this is about Confederate soldiers. But if you can get past that, this is insane stunts. Like
mm,
Buster Keaton was just
mm.
insane in the way that he can make physical comedy work.
Yeah.
So it's like an hour and 15 minute, hour 20-minute movie. And they blew up a real train, which is like
Yeah.
committing to the
Back when you couldn't fake it, you just had to do it if you wanted it in your film.
Well, yeah, I was just rewatching. I just watched that movie I referenced earlier, Soup to Nuts. There's a flaming building at the end. I'm like, these are real flames. This building's actually crumbling. I'm like, they can't CGI this.
Oh, and
So
I bet you they just did it. They were just like,
I bet
set it
you
on
they
fire.
did. All for the comedy. But that's a wrap here on another episode of Welcome to the Wasteland. Alice, thank you so much for enduring more Judge Priest with me.
It's all good. I'm glad to have done it with you.
Thank you. And I promise you a good spot for Wes Anderson next time. Tree
Yes,
services.
I will send you my favorites and just give me some of those.
Absolutely. And whomever is going to be the next director after Wes Anderson, which if you want to partake in figuring out who that's going to be, go over to
Mhm.
my Instagram page and vote. Share your voice either through the Google form that I have or reply to it because too many people have told me they couldn't make the Google form work. But most importantly, thank all of you out there for always tuning in and supporting your Wasteland reviewer.